then I want to, yes, sir, I'll do one more. Yes, sir.
Our country, our Constitution has been stomped under the feet.
Yep.
It's written according to the Bible. Like you said, we got to get praying for the country. We got people got to be tried for treason.
And death penalty. Well, I think we're ending on a right note. Listen, thank you guys for sticking around.
Yeah, I think America's ending, but I'm not sure it's on the right note. So she has a bunch of crazies of the exact same variety that she came from. Very rarely do our elected officials more accurately represent their voters than Marjorie Greene. She was a person posting conspiratorial, violent content on Facebook, and now those people go to her town halls. So you have a guy saying all these Democrats or whatever are doing treason, they need to be tried. And then a woman shouts out and get the death penalty. And Marjorie Greene, I'm just gonna say Marjorie Greene. I'm not gonna say the other things about her that I'd like to right now that I think are perfectly descriptive, but we're not allowed to. Laughs. Yeah, the death penalty. I think we're ending on the right note. You wanna kill all the Democrats for the conspiracy theories we tell you. That's a good note. We should probably end on that. The woman Marjorie Greene, who by the way thinks that charging Trump with anything is communist because you don't go after your political opponents, thinks that it's funny that we would give the death penalty to Joe Biden and Harris and Buttigieg and all of these people. Now look, this is hardly the first time that she has laughed off or agreed with threats of mass violence against her political opponents, but she's an elected official right now. There's not gonna be any censuring for this. She's not gonna be kicked out of her seat. She's not gonna be kicked off of her committees. It is 100% normalized that you can just joke about killing all of the people who disagree with you. Mondale, what do you think?
I mean, listen, you're spot on when you talk about the type of crazy she comes from. The problem is she's an elected official. She is one of the few people who has the joy and also luxury of sitting in Congress as a member of that house. And the fact that she can say these things and not be censored is unbelievable, except for it's also soup du jour. This is what we are. This is where we find ourselves. I think it started with, before she was elected, this is who she was. Then we saw her during the State of the Union, called the president a lie. We saw her laughing in committee when they was talking about the Haitians and the whips, and they putting it on the back of a coin that's been passed around Border Patrol, and she thought that was funny. So this is a continuation of this woman. But I also want to mention the people in the audience seems so much more different than the Republicans when not Donald Trump, when John McCain was running for president against Barack Obama. You might remember the one time where people were saying Obama was trying to take their Social Security and he's a terrorist, he's a Muslim, and John McCain stopped them at his rally. We don't see that type of Republicans anymore. We see this where they laugh at death. They are laughing at death about treason, when in actuality, they don't really care about treason. Because if they did, they'd be calling it for Donald Trump. It is obvious that Donald Trump committed treason, and these Republicans are not about that. They're about, like you said, weaponizing government for their political opponents.
I'm so glad that you mentioned the John McCain thing, because that is always like, and again, by the way, if you go back to the whole John McCain thing, his actual response still could have been better, but it showed a little bit, because it still sort of implied that like, if he were a Muslim, it would be. But anyway, whatever. He stood up to one of his potential voters, and that is good. So I don't know, Mondale, if you know this, but Marjorie Greene recently was watching the show and she reviewed it on her Twitter account. So I have to assume that the Congresswoman is watching. So let me speak directly to Marjorie Greene. I don't know, and I can't say exactly why you did what you did. I'm not going to assert that it was for one reason. In fact, I can think of at least two reasons that you might have did what you did. Now, neither of them are good, unfortunately. Maybe you can go in the chat, send a super chat or something and tell us which it is. Either you agree with those people. You agree that we should just be mass locking up, some sort of QAnon fantasy land or whatever, where everybody gets locked up and everybody gets pushed against a wall and gunned down, and it's great. And we can stage it all exactly like The Handmaid's Tale. It'll be super cinematic. Maybe you agree with that. There's a lot of reason to believe that you agree with that because your past social media history is full of that stuff. You've previously, before you were brought into office, agreed with killing FBI agents, Barack Obama, Nancy Pelosi. A bullet to the head would be quicker to remove Speaker Pelosi than voting her out, or saying that the stage is being set for Obama to be hung. Like, It's super consistent for you to still be talking about killing your opponents. It's sad, it's pathetic that rather than actually being able to beat them, rhetorically, beat them electorally, you just want to skip to killing them all. But maybe that's what it is. But maybe it's not. Maybe I'm being unfair to you. Maybe you don't actually agree with these people. Maybe you're just utterly spineless. Maybe you, like every other elected Republican, look out at that crowd and you see a bunch of dumb yokels, rubes, hicks that you have no respect for. They believe crazy things, admittedly, because you've taught them to believe those things. You've encouraged them to believe those things. And now at this point, you need them to believe those things. That way they never challenge the rich, those who have entrenched economic power. But you don't want to actually have to interact with them too much. And when they say something crazy like that, you just laugh it off because you don't have the actual guts, the bravery to tell them that they're wrong. Like John McCain did, a guy that I'm sure you have no respect for, was willing to lose a voter, maybe many voters, to stick up for what he actually believed. Or maybe it's not a thing where you're too scared to actually stick up for what you really believe, because at the end of the day, maybe you believe literally nothing. Maybe it's just an opportunistic thing where you want to be in office so people will come to your rallies, you could get paid for doing little work. Maybe it's one of those three things. I don't know. Feel free to send us a comment. I would love to know. Sorry, Mondale, what do you think? I apologize.
I know, I think you're right, and I think she should do you one better and come on the show. I'm not your producer.
We have her on.
But I think, maybe you could teach her something and she could learn what journalism looks like, where people aren't just saying crazy stuff that's not factually based, like we've seen from Fox as of late, where these people go and just repeat anything. And there should be a category where you lose the right to call yourself a news station if you're not providing news, right? Like you should literally lose that. It should be monitored. Like you can't call yourself a hospital if you're not a hospital. You can't call yourself a college if you're not a college. It should be the same thing. Like this is ridiculous what we're getting over there. This unchecked, and really it's an attack on democracy. Like not just January 6th, the attack on democracy has continued, and it continues on Fox News every day. And it is absolutely ridiculous that we are allowing it.
You're 100% right. Like normalizing threats of political violence against the other side is a way that you attack the ability of a democracy to exist. You make it philosophically impossible for us to do what we do, because democracy requires that you be okay with losing every once in a while. If you believe that every time you lose, you were cheated and it's time to start hanging people, a democracy cannot exist at that point. And I do agree about the truth in advertising. I think things should be labeled accurately, which is why after years of people referring to me as Dragon Daddy, I decided I had to have a kid, because otherwise it was not honest. So anyway, maybe she'll answer, maybe she'll come on the show. Come on the show, Marjorie, come on. We can, I know that you've got your little podcast or whatever, Marge, but you can come on our show, you've got a bigger audience, and maybe you can win some people over. I know that you're very impressed with your own intellectual capability, your ability to persuade people. Well, demonstrate it by talking to some, what you would probably call raging communists on our show. So anyway, we'll see, I doubt it.
For more political news breakdowns, interviews, stories of activism, and me trying my hardest to care about the occasional big celebrity news story, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/thedamagereport. And you can ring the bell wherever it is so you don't miss anything.